Evra, there are three things I want to do today. Reb Davy has a little presentation for us at the end. I'm going to get to that at the end. I want to get to that. I want to see that myself. There's something I want to speak about the same Talumata Levrach with a few guys. But I want to get right to Chanukah. I want to share something with the Chevra that was precious to me, and maybe it'll be precious to you. I'd like to share a diuk from the Imrei Emes. I think the diuk is a wonderful diuk, such an exactness in learning, an excellent diuk from the Imrei Emes. His plan, what to do with this diuk, Rav Shaul Alter's idea about this Imrei Emes, and then we'll get to Saint Talumata. So let's get cracking. The Gemara asks famously, the Gemara in Shabbos says, "My Chanukah." Now, much is spoken about. What's the question? Ask the question, "My Chanukah." What's Chanukah? What's the question? What is Chanukah? But the Gemara asks, "My Chanukah." The Tanu Rabbanan learned, "B'chach hei b'Kislev yoymi de Chanukah." On Chaf hei of Kislev are the days of Chanukah. Timanya inun. There are 8 days. The Leila mispad b'han. You're not let us say a eulogy on those 8 days. And a person's not let to fast on these 8 days. Why? When the Yevanim entered the Heichal, Timu kol ashmanim, they were metame all the oils, shebeheichal. Ukshegavra malchus beis chashmonaim, when the chashmonaim beat out the Yevanim, v'natzcham, they overcame, they won, they were victorious. Badku, they searched. They only found one little canister, one pach of shemen. It was placed in the seal of the Kohen Gadol, so it was still tar. There was only in that little canister enough for one day. Nase boy nes. Now that word boy is the diuk of the Imrei Emes, an excellent diuk. It should say nasa nes. A miracle happened, and they lit for 8 days. It doesn't say a miracle happened, Yiddi. It says nasa boy nes. A miracle happened in it. What's boy? In what? Very good diuk. It says there was one pach of shemen, and there was only boy. In the pach. We're talking about the little canister of shemen. So there was only one, enough for one day in that little pach. Nase boy nes. A nes happened in the pach. And they lit from the pach 8 days. So it says the nes, the diuk is an eisen a diuk, that the nes happened in the canister, Shmuley. So what does that mean? Says the Imrei Emes, the miracle was there was one canister survived. In that canister should be enough to last for a day. It was a little pach that was enough to light the menorah for one day. But nase boy nes, a nes happened in the canister that there was enough for 8 days. Now it doesn't say that, it says nase boy nes, and they lit from the canister for 8 days. But the nace happened, a nace happened to the canister. Says the Imrei Emes, what's mashma in the Gemara is that 8 days worth of oil fit in one canister. Normally in that little canister there would only be enough to burn for one day. That little canister held much more than it was supposed to be able to hold. They poured in, the Kohen Gadol poured shemen into a little can. That little pach should have enough. 8 days worth was poured into that little can. It's nase boy nes. There was no nes with the oil, Shmuley. The nes was the pach. It's mamish medoyak in the Gemara, the Imrei Emes. The miracle was that the canister was able to hold much more than any canister that side would hold. That's the miracle. A lot of achrayim ask that how do you light with oil? You can't. It's not called oil. There's a taisvis on this. Is that even called oil if it's miracle oil? You need shemen zayis. You can't have miracle oil. According to the Imrei Emes, it's not a kash at all. There was no nace in the oil. There was a nace in the pach. The pach that normally could hold 1 day held 8 days of oil in that pach, which is mamish medoyik in the Gemara. Nase by nace. A nace happened by to the pach shemen. A pach that normally holds 1 day held 8 days. It's not like a wild vert. It's almost the pashtus of the Gemara. Nase by nace. A nace happened with the pach. Incredible pach that should have held enough oil for 1 day.
Was it heavier?
Did you actually feel it heavier? The same bottle. Hashem made a miracle. The oil's not a miracle. The oil, 8 days, the pach had an amazing. A pach that could hold 1 thing of oil, held 8 of oil. The pach was a miracle.
Originally it was poured in 8 days worth?
Yeah. Originally 8 days was poured in.
I mean, the miracle happened whatever you...
Nasa by Nace, this pach had a miracle. Now I agree with Gershi. It almost according to the Imrei Emes, it said Nasa by Nace wasn't then. It sounds like when they found it, a miracle happened. According to Nasa by Nace, a miracle had happened to that pach. So it's funny, the miracle had happened before. No, they see a little pach, unbeknownst to them. It's funny, you'd buy a cider from the machine and all the ciders have 2 cups of cider, and punk, there's 1 can. It's a miracle can. They're like 14 cups in that little can. It's a nace. It's a nace that much more oil was contained in a smaller can.
See, the first guy that poured it, did he know that he poured like...
I don't know. It came out. There was still plenty left. It was a nace in this pach. That's how the Imrei is. The diuk in the Gemara. The diuk in the what'd you say?
Why would they pour 8 days worth of oil?
That's what they did. 8 days went in there.
Is he saying they always did that in every single?
No, this pach. This pach they had 8 days in this pach. But the diuk is an ice and a diuk. The diuk's an awesome diuk. Nase boy nace, and boy is going. Hootie, where's Hootie? Nase boy nace. Manny, you like them, right? Emes's diuk. Nase boy nace. Listen. Everybody could try to argue the mashmais of the Gemara is a shtickle like him. Nase boy nace. Shouldn't say boy. As long to do with the pach. According to him, the nace was with the pach. That's the Miriam says. Says of Shaul Alter, what's going on? And what was the purpose? Now, to ask what the purpose is, so if Shaul Alter says, you could say the purpose is because you wouldn't be yaitz otherwise. If the nace, Hashem didn't want us to have nace shel shemen shel nace, you're not yaitz with shemen shel nace. So could be the purpose is that we had shemen, we had good shemen.
What's his question?
Rav Shaul Alter, why does Hashem do this? What was the purpose?
What do you mean?
Why do it this way, the nace, that the pach? Yeah, why do the nace this happy way? So the simple answer is, so we should be yaitza. Because if the nace was to produce oil that's not shemen zayis, so who said you're yaitza? The chiyuv is to have shemen zayis. Shemen shel nace is not shemen zayis. So according to this, it wasn't shemen shel nace. The shemen wasn't miraculous. The pach was miraculous. But of course, if Hashem does something, there's some lesson to us. Says Rav Shaul Alter like this. Says Rav Shaul Alter that the lesson of the miracle, he brings the Gemara in Brachas Taf Mem, that it says Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu is different than the Midah Bas V'Dam. By physical beings, if you have an empty kli, it can hold, and a full kli can't hold. And Hashem's not that way. A full kli can hold by Hashem. And he said that the lesson is that when something's connected to Hashem, it can do and carry and be much more powerful than its physical metzias. It's the very story, says Rav Shaul Alter, of the miracle of the Rabbim Ba'ad Ma'atim. It's not a coincidence. The Rabbim Ba'ad Ma'atim, the very story of the masses that were defeated by the little is the same story of the nace. That the nace expresses that a small can hold much more because it's connected to its source. Because Hashem means HaKadosh Baruch Hu is different. When it's connected to its source, so a small amount could do much more, has much more powerful. The physical can have much more powerful when Hashem benches it. When there's connection to Hashem, the less could do much more, and that's the very story of Chanukah, the Rambam Ma'atim. In a very, just in a practical way. I don't want to tell you today. All of us can prepare and should cute vartim for Chanukah. I'm not mocking that. I want to talk to Yisrael Winter. He's going, what is Chanukah? Like, and try to hit like the essence of the thing and not just share. We could share cute vartim. I want to share psukim, and next week, that 2 Shabbosos will actually be together with Siyat D'Shmai for Parashas Miketz. There's always the story, Yosef HaTzadik, and the story of Yosef HaTzadik is always extremely connected to Chanukah and read on Shabbos Chanukah. And the second Shabbos of Chanukah, we're going to read, we read the first part of the Shvatim this Shabbos, and then Miketz, the next 2 Shabbosos. I shouldn't call it Shabbos Chanukah, the Shabbos right after Chanukah. But I want to share in Parashas Miketz. I want to share something about Yosef HaTzadik that I think really will hit this inyan about the small pach that holds so much more, and the ma'atim who vanquished the rabbim. And Yosef HaTzadik, Pari has a dream, and Yosef HaTzadik interprets the dream that Para, you should recuse yourself from running Mitzrayim and get yourself a Navain v'chacham to run Egypt. It's part of the dream. And he tells Para, remove yourself. Normally you get killed for telling Para this, but Yosef HaTzadik was asked to interpret Para's dream. Yosef HaTzadik's a 17-year-old boy. 17-year-old person who's in Mitzrayim. He's thrown in a pit in Egypt. And he interprets, Para hears he's a Paiser Chalomis, he's an interpreter of dreams. Para pulls him out of jail to interpret his dream. And Yosef says that you, Para, based on the dream, should recuse yourself from running Mitzrayim. Stop running Mitzrayim. And get a Navain v'chachim, get an intelligent person, a discerning person to run Egypt. There's going to be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine. And get somebody who's going to figure out how the country's going to survive in the 7 years of famine. It's going to be life-threatening for the entire country. And you need a discerning man to run Mitzrayim during those difficult years. And Parai says to Yosef HaTzadik, Vayomer Parel Yosef, Achrei Idea Lekim Oischas Kol Zeis. Now that Hashem has taught you the interpretation of my dream, a Navan v'chacham kamoicha. No Navan v'chacham matches up to you. Pari had a lot of smart people. And the dream Shmuel asked Pari to find a brilliant, intelligent, sophisticated man to run the country to make sure they all don't starve to death. And it certainly needed a very competent, good person. I like competence, so I like when people do things well. I appreciate it. Rabbi Beitler came the other day and he ran a practice for the team. I was like very nisra. I liked it. I find a certain honesty, a certain ehrlichkeit. I love seeing somebody do something well and thoroughly. I was watching Rabbi Beitler run practice and Zevi Ginniger run his MMA stuff. And I was just having a lot of nachas from both, of things done well. And Mitzrayim needs somebody to do a good job. They're going to have 7 years of plenty, Davidel. Mitzrayim's going to have 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. A lot of people could die from a famine. And Yosef HaTzadik tells Parai, based on his dream, that you're not the one to run the economics of the country. A lot of people are going to die. The country's going to go belly up if you run it. Get a smart man. an intelligent, a Navam v'chacham to run the country. Somebody really competent. Forgot the guy's name for years. Greenspan. Who's the guy the guy Greenspan who ran there's always some like a shtickle, intelligent, nerdy guy who runs the American economy. Not the Greenspan, the Geschmacka Yeshivish guy. Maybe it's the same guy. Maybe he could. Guys heard, is Greenspan still the one in charge of the economy in America?
Stock exchange?
Not the stock, like what's that called? One who decides inflation, like the treasurer. Who's the
Alan Greenspan.
Bless see, not bad. Alan Greenspan?
American Economy Reserve.
Alan Greenspan, like
Chairman of Federal Reserve.
he's the chairman of the Federal. It's always dangerous. I think they did it on purpose. They put a yid there, like
87-06.
to reinforce from 1987 to 2006. So it was a guy, Alan Greenspan, not to be confused with his cousin, the Yeshivisha Greenspan, but there's the guy who's Misamech Yidden. But this this Alan Greenspan was the head of the reserves. They're in charge, Yisrael, of inflation. But you need like a brainiac to like figure stuff out. You need a Navan B'chacham, quite a discerning fellow, to figure out the economics to make sure people don't starve to death. So the whole country is relying, Shloima. It's quite a dangerous matzav. And Yosef Atzadik tells Paro, get your biggest brainiac to run the country. This way nobody starves during the famine. Comes Paro and he says, Ein Navam v'chacham kamoicha. I don't want any Navam v'chacham, I want you. Ein Navam v'chacham kamoicha. Now, some people learn nobody's as smart as you. I don't believe that's the pshat. Ayin Berashi. He's not saying nobody's as smart as Yosef Atzadik. It's not what he's saying. Because it doesn't even say Yosef smart. He says, since God taught this to you, Rashi says, Levakesh Navam v'chacham shamarta. You said get a smart guy, I'd rather you. This is what I want to learn with the Chevra concerning Chanukah. This is what I want to learn with the Chevra concerning the fight of Yavan and the Yid. And this, I think, might be very represented by the Imrei Emes's Pach, the small Pach that holds a lot. Nase by Nes. A Nes means it's kissed by God. It has a connection to Hashem. And Oibazai, a small thing, could hold a lot. And what I want to say, Yisro, when it came time we all have shilas to ask in our life. We all have questions. I have a big sheet in learning. A lot of people are intimidated by brilliance. He's a genius, he's brilliant. I always trust in learning and out of learning. If I had a shaila that my whole life, Yaakov, depended on, intense shaila, my wife and I would ask the biggest questions of my life to Rav Gissinger. Now, Rav Gissinger was very smart. I promise you I didn't ask him because he was very smart. But I'm talking about the biggest questions, like serious questions in our life, we would ask Rav Shlomo Gissinger. Why did we trust him? Why ask him? He was smart. Smart man. Quite smart. That had nothing to do. I believe I've met smarter. He was very smart, not being the smartest. I trusted him. I felt sincerity. I felt Yiras Shamayim. There was a certain lack of ego, certain isbatlus to Hashem. I felt Yiras Shamayim, awareness of God. He was a humble man, a sincere, honest, authentic person. And if I want to trust, if my life depended on it, I would choose that any day of the week over brilliant. And the word that Paro says, Yosef Atzadik, his entire country lies on the line, so get the biggest geek. Get like the craziest nerdy genius to save the country. He says, I want you, Yosef. I see you have a connection to God. Yosef was Shem Shamayim Shagar B'fiv. He was always saying Be'ezus Hashem and Mirtz Hashem. It was nicker, it was recognizable that he was a person of Yiras Shamayim, of awareness of Hashem. And Paro waves away. He says, Einavim v'chacham kamaycha. All the wisdom doesn't match a human being who has sincerity, who's a person of God, who's honest, who's a real guy. Nothing matches that. I've seen it in yeshiva, I've seen it in learning. One guy's a genius, but he doesn't have a commitment to honesty and truth. Say this, say that. There's no commitment to honesty. It's a brilliant mind, and other people are dazzling. You heard that, guys? I would never ask advice. I don't even enjoy the person's learning that much. I certainly don't connect to it. I don't detect an honesty. So brilliance, yes, there's a chacham, a navam v'chacham, but there's not a connection to Hashem. And in a world of connection to Hashem is much more powerful, than a world detached from Hashem. Which, by Yosef, he said, "Vayomer Parel Yosef, Achrei Haidia Elikim Oischas Kol Zais." Now that God revealed all this to you, I see you're a person close to Hashem. Einavam v'chacham kamaycha. No discerning, intelligent man matches up to you. Nobody now I admit, some people can read in the pasuk, nobody's as smart as you. But Rashi's mashmanata. Rashi says, "Levakesh navam v'chacham she'amarta." You said to look at navam v'chacham le'nimsa kamaycha. No navam v'chacham stacks up to you. I'd rather you. You're a man of God. You're a man of sincerity. I'd rather you. And to me, this really captured a lot. To me, that pasuk and that idea captured Hanukkah, because you have a people of Yavan that are very rational people who live very presently in the physical world. Now, it's interesting, we also like beauty. Afdelikim liyefes, v'yishkaim b'alei shem. The physical's important by us, but it's devoid of the connection to Hashem. In Alanisim, we speak about what Yavan try to do, and we describe in Yavan what they try to do to us. Lashkichem Tayrasecha, to make us forget Torah, Chachmas Hashem, to remove us Chukei Ritzainecha, the Chukim that are God's will. They want to make a man-centered world. Yavan is all about the human being, the strength of the human, the beauty, and it matters the beauty and strength of a person. But it's all about his batlus to Hashem, Chachmas Hashem, Mitzvahs Hashem. The Yid also believes in the beauty of a person and the power of a person, but subjugated and humble to Hashem. You have a Yosef HaTzadik shows up in Mitzrayim, in a land Mitzrayim is Malei Zimas, full of the person. And you have a Yosef who's batal to Hashem, who's Achri Idea Lekim and Para acknowledges that the person of sincerity connected to Hashem is a Navim V'Chacham, no Chachma matches you. The Ma'atim that are attached to Hashem, that are fighting with sincerity, that are fighting with Psukim and Tilim, that are fighting with that capital Tilim that we read, it's capital Tzadi Aleph, that are coming. Remember we read that the Yevanim were fighting with capital Yoshe B'Sei Se'elya, and they were coming talking about trusting in Hashem. Elikai Evtach Boi, which is the words that the Chashmonaim was saying. Elikai Evtach Boi, we're Baitach in Hashem, and those small that are connected to Hashem, to the Ein Saif, are much stronger than a rabbin disconnected. And then it's cool, says the Imre Yemes, and explains Rav Shaul Alter that the very miracle was a small can that Nasa by Nes was touched by God, and it was able to hold much, much more. The power of that which was plugged into its source, the power of that which is sincere and connected to Hashem, over things that are large but disconnected. That's the Rabbin Ba'ad Ma'atim. And that's how the Imre Yemes says the nace of that small pach that holds so much more than it looks physically capable, because connected to that which is deeper. The small that becomes so much more meaningful because it's connected, because it was commanded. I had a story. I had a story that happened to me. I don't know if you'll relate, but to me, it's not a side story to Hanukkah. It's my Hanukkah story. I'm a very competitive guy, and I moved to Waterbury. It's interesting because Avrami was telling me, Avram, who's coming from Eretz Yisrael, Avram Fisher was telling me that he sees all the lights all around. When I moved to Waterbury, I was very taken. I was you move here. I'd come from Eretz Yisrael for a number of years, and around Hanukkah time, the whole place is lit up. One of the Bachram told me he wants to go to Manhattan, the way it's lit up. In the park, on the way to Yeshiva, on the 691, there's a park, they light up. It goes the whole winter, and it starts right now. And Yisrael, I was seeing all the Goyim put lights everywhere. And I was thinking to myself that they outlight us. I was thinking to myself that we have one candle first night, two the second night. And I was thinking that they have so many more lights than us. I'm a competitive guy. It just made me think. I'm allowed to think about that. I'm like, hey, these guys light it up. And I have my one light in the window. They've outdone us. So I get that way. I'm like, well, we have a real fire. I'm sure glad I don't do some people have those, yaitza, you're not like the menorah, the electric menorah. Then you're really pathetic. At least I have real fire. So you have all the lights, but mine is real. But I was handling Yehuda. They outlight us. So this might not hit you. A guy competitive, to me it was like an annoyance. Seeing all their lights and the limit of my light. And what gave me tremendous chizuk is that we make a bracha and they don't. And we say Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvaysav. I was commanded my light. You could have all the lights in the world, but it's not connected to anything. My light, I make a bracha, was commanded by God. It's an eternal light. It's much more powerful. It's the Rabbin Bad Matan. You could have all the numbers in the world, but if it's connected to Hashem, it's different. It's more powerful. It's sincere. It's authentic. In some ways, I like that they have tons of lights and very little lights. But I make a bracha, and none of them ever made a bracha on their light. They don't say Asher Kedishanu b'mitzvaysav. I was commanded to do this. I go to my menorah, my light, and I say, God, you commanded me to do this. You commanded me to listen to the Rabbanan, and they told me to do this. Mine is a tzivui. My light's connected to a deeper source. That's a whole different light. So then you have a small light and tons of lights. You can light up parks wide, and it will be cool, but it's disconnected to its source. And my light is connected to the ultimate source. It's plugged in a whole different way. It's plugged in. That gave me a lot of chizuk. Asher kedishanu b'mitzvaysav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. And the power of that which is authentic, that which has a tzivui, that which has loyalty to Hashem, I was commanded in this. That has a unique power. And I think that's a lot of the story of Chanukah. That's the story of the battle against Yavan. The human being that is precious, but can plug into its creator. Yavan is not off. They're not off on the strength of man. The strength of man matters. The chachma of man matters when he plugs into chachmas Hashem. When he cares about chukei ritzainecha, so then the human being is so powerful, and the ma'atim that's plugged into its source becomes much bigger than the rabbim unplugged in. The rabbim bad ma'atim. The Yosef Achri Ideal Kim Aischas Kol Zais. Any geek in the world could be brilliant. 15 Alan Greenspans don't match one yid who's sincere. You're a sincere person. You're authentic. You're actually asking, what does God want? You actually care about Biladai. You care about Hashem. You're a guy I trust to save the country. Your chachma is much more powerful. Your gvura is more powerful. Everything that you contain is more powerful. That's what Rav Shaul Alter says. Is pshat in Imrei Emes that the physical thing contains so much more. It's plugged in, so it holds endless because it's plugged in to God. Nasa b'nes. It's connected to Hashem. So that's the first thing I wanted to learn with the Chevra today. The second thing I wanted to learn with the guys, this is an agenda. My agenda is everybody should remember, we daven 3 Shemona Esreis a day. We just switched last night and we're starting to say in Baruch Aleinu, V'sein Talumata, we started asking for rain. We've been thanking for rain since Sukkot. Since after Sukkot, since Shmini Atzeres, we've been saying Mashiva Ruach Umered HaGeshem, which is not a request but a praise. Hashem, you're the blower of wind and you bring rain. Mashiva Ruach Umered HaGeshem. The reason we say the blower of wind then brings rain, if it rained without the winds blowing, would help us zero. Because the water comes up from the oceans, goes into the clouds. If it just rained, it would go back into the ocean, up and down, up and down. We would not have any delicious fruit and food, and we'd all perish. But what Hashem does is the water pulls up to the clouds. Hashem brings winds. The winds blow the crowd right above our fields. Then the rain comes. That's Mashiv Ruach. Hashem blows the wind, moves the cloud right over our fields, Umered HaGeshem, and the rain falls. So that we're thanking Hashem for that, and that we've been thanking already since Shmini Atzeres. Starting last night, we started requesting rain. Saying Talumater, please give us rain. Now, if somebody forgets to say in Baruch Aleinu, and already finishes Mivarech Hashanim, done. It's out of Toich Kedei Diber, or they started Tka B'Shofar. So now, what do? They should ask for rain in Shema Koleinu. Daven straight till Shema Koleinu, and in the middle of Shema Koleinu, Rei come out to Shivenu, say Hashem, saying Talumater, please give us rain. If you say in Shema Koleinu, you are Yaitza.
Where do you say?
By Mufanechem Alkenu, Rei come out to Shivenu, then right there, say Hashem, saying Talumater. Saying Talumater, Levrach. What do you say? Yeah. If you finish Baruch Aleinu, you start at Tka, and you didn't ask for rain, Aaron. Aaron, you got the halacha? So if you forget in Baruch Aleinu, you start at Tka, you say it in Shema Koleinu. Let's say you forget in Shema Koleinu. Said, Baruch Atah Hashem, now you're 0 for 2. You forgot in Shema Koleinu. So we paskin, you go back to Baruch Aleinu. Yisrael, the guy's supposed to say in Baruch Aleinu, saying Talumater, starting from last night. If you forgot in Baruch Aleinu is the bracha for Parnasa. In Parnasa, we ask for rain. Baruch Aleinu es Hashana Azais is the bracha for Parnasa. You ask, in Baruch Aleinu, you should ask your parents have the right Parnasa. You should daven the yeshiva, should have money. You should daven your neighbors, your friends, people you love, your siblings should have Parnasa. It's Baruch Aleinu. And we ask for rain, same Talumater and Baruch Aleinu. If you forgot to ask in Baruch Aleinu, you ask in Shema Aleinu. If you forgot twice, Baruch Aleinu, Shema Aleinu, you ask, go back to Baruch Aleinu. Let's say you're 0 for 3. Donnie, let's say you forgot in Baruch Aleinu, forgot in Shema Aleinu, went back to Baruch Aleinu, forgot again. Shoot. What do you do now? This is a huge debate. You won't find this in Paiskim. This is like the ultimate klutz shaila. A guy like me relates to these type of things. Vicky says, you're out, like better luck tomorrow. That wasn't a request. That was a praise. You need a request. You need to ask for it. So what does a guy do now, from? He forgot in Baruch Aleinu. He forgot in Shema Aleinu. Went back to Baruch Aleinu and forgot again. What do you say, Shloima? What should he do now? So Binyamin says, say, who just said say Nishma Aleinu? So, what? So Madcha says keep going and say Nishma Aleinu. That's one option.
When you say go back to Baruch Aleinu, you start it from Baruch Aleinu again, or just say Baruch Aleinu?
Start from Baruch Aleinu again. And then daven Baruch Aleinu. That's what you do. If you forgot in Baruch Aleinu, you keep davening and saying Shema Aleinu.
When you say it in Shema Aleinu, you mean just those words? Or
Saying Talumat Tel Bracha.
Just those 2 words?
Yeah.
Right, if you miss that.
Now, if you miss in Shema Aleinu, you go back to Baruch Aleinu. Now, we're asking, let's say you missed it again in Baruch Aleinu. You're having a bad day, Avi. So the guy missed it in Baruch Aleinu, missed it in Shema Aleinu, went back to Baruch Aleinu, and Eureka, he missed it. So what do you do now? There are 3 tzadim. One side is doing in Shema Aleinu. A second sad. See, according to that, you're reading from Baruch Aleinu to Shema Aleinu. The problem is, listen to this problem, Madcha, listen to the problem. Why am I reading from Baruch Aleinu to Shema Aleinu? Why am I reading from Baruch Aleinu to Shema Aleinu? I read it already once. Now I went back to fix it up, but I didn't fix it up. So the second side is you should skip to Shema Aleinu. If you said Baruch Aleinu and you missed it again, skip to Shema Aleinu and say it there. But don't say everything in between. You said it once and you're not fixing anything up. So if you missed it in Baruch Aleinu second time, skip to Shema Aleinu and say it there.
You're going back.
So we have one side, once you went back, you should keep davening to Shema Aleinu, say it there. We have a second side, skip to Shema Aleinu. And a third side is who said, it says if you miss in Baruch Aleinu, you can say in Shema Aleinu. That's the first time. In the makeup, who said there's a makeup? The makeup, there's another side to say Baruch Aleinu not a third time and just get it right that time. Who said the first time you miss in Baruch Aleinu, say Shema Aleinu. If you missed in Shema Aleinu, now you say Baruch Aleinu. Once you were determined to go back to Baruch, if you missed in Shema Aleinu, you're now supposed to do the Baruch Aleinu. So you missed the first time, do again Baruch Aleinu. Once you miss Shema Aleinu, you got to get it in Baruch Aleinu. So if you second time miss, do Baruch Aleinu again.
Rebbe's throwing the towel
Three
out.
stud. You're a Gershon is throwing in the towel. You know the yeshiva, we never quit.
Come back tomorrow. Try it again.
Next week. It's funny. It's funny you say this. Okay.
Say it.